Captain Wild Bill Wichrowski endured the most deadly storms the Bering Sea could bring for decades. A legend who led his crew and boat through chaos, storm, and ice, he was a master of the waters. However, the storm that was building inside of him was the one that he never anticipated. A man's greatest struggle would be against an invisible foe if he were to defeat every monster the ocean produced. An adversary who would compel him to make a decision that would permanently alter his life in Deadliest Catch. The FV Summer Bay's rolling icy decks are not where the story starts. It starts in a much more spooky, colder, and quieter place. Deadliest Catch accomplished something that it doesn't often do at the conclusion of Season 19. It accompanied Captain Bill into the sterile, quiet corridors of an oncology unit, leaving behind the perilous waters of Alaska. The customary sounds of crashing waves and yelling deckhands were replaced by the gentle hum of medical equipment. This new environment was shocking to viewers accustomed to seeing Bill in total control. He was no longer in charge of a powerful ship. A man who awaited the news that would put an end to everything. Bill, who was well known for his loud voice and straightforward demeanor, was seen by the camera sitting calmly while he awaited the results of his tests. No fog on the Bering Sea could compare to the strain. The doctor's words, which struck more forcefully than any rogue wave, then delivered the verdict. After examining him, the physician stated bluntly that he had prostate cancer and that it required immediate treatment. It was more than cancer. It was an aggressive form of the sickness, the doctor explained. There was no time to wait, the war had to begin right away. For a man whose life was governed by quotas and seasons, physicians and treatments now controlled his calendar. His greatest obstacle had always been the ocean, but now a tiny foe posed a threat to accomplish what the sea was never able to. What is the reaction of a man who has never given up a fight to such news? Captain Wild Bill's initial reaction was one of defiance rather than fear. One of his first thoughts upon hearing the diagnosis was, "I'm not going to stop fishing. I will continue until I truly am unable to continue." He was aware that many people simply withdraw and become withdrawn after receiving a diagnosis like this. And he thought that only made matters worse. He refused to allow his work or identity be defined by the illness. Decades of adversity and peril shaped the untamed Bill image. Was not going to be subdued by this, so he resolved to fight this battle his way, on his terms, which meant going back to the deck of his boat in the middle of the Bering Sea, the place where he felt most alive. He was battling for the persona he had spent a lifetime creating, not simply for his life. Few people would choose to return to the Bering Sea while beginning intensive cancer treatment. Bill acknowledged that doctors treat you like you've gone crazy when you tell them you want to go fishing while receiving treatment. Crab fishing needed harsh physical labor and total seclusion from medical care, which was in stark contrast to the medical community's demands for stability and repose. Bill, however, was certain. He was aware that the path ahead would be extremely challenging. He publicly stated that the upcoming 4, 6, or 8 months would not be enjoyable. His body was at its weakest, and he was about to go on the most deadly task on the planet, a gamble that would try every ounce of his fortitude and will. The actual therapy was an unrelenting, unseen conflict. Bill told his supporters about it on social media, stating that he was receiving treatment with hormones and radioactive seeds. To directly target the cancer, radioactive seeds were inserted within his body. The goal of the hormone treatment was to prevent the cancer from spreading, but it was quite expensive. Bill clarified that the goal of the treatment was to bring his testosterone levels down to almost nothing. This would be a challenging task for any guy, but it was devastating for a crab boat captain whose existence relied on his power and energy. The effects hit him almost instantly. He wrote that the hormones were not giving him any energy. It was draining this formidable, mythical creature from the inside out. "I have always felt 10 to 15 years younger than my age," he wrote, sharing a devastating idea with his fans. "Being around a crew half my age and my profession. The clock seems to have caught up." The vibrancy that had defined him for so long was being taken away by the same medicine that was saving his life. However, a new objective started to take shape in Bill's thoughts despite all the suffering and fatigue. He understood that there might be more to his fight than just himself. He made the decision to let the most lethal cameras to follow him all the way from the doctor's office to the Summer Bay deck. "To be honest, I think it's a little strange to make the diagnosis public," he remarked. "I'm prepared to share it so that others can witness the journey." In an effort to persuade some individuals to get checked in front of millions, this gruff private man decided to show vulnerability. In an attempt to spare other men from suffering the same fate, he transformed his personal struggle into a PSA. He articulated his new objective succinctly and effectively. "It's a good thing if I can save one or two people on this earth." The skipper now judged success in lives he might be able to save instead of pounds of crab. He was transitioning from a tough sea captain into an unusual health advocate, and he was using his fame for good rather than glory. You must comprehend the man who lived it to comprehend why Bill battled so valiantly to remain on the ocean. It was a long and difficult road for Bill Wichrowski to get to the captain's chair. He was born and raised in Irwin, Pennsylvania, a suburb east of Pittsburgh. He enlisted in the Navy in 1975 after completing Norrin High School. After serving, he developed a taste for the water, and the prospect of earning large sums of money in Alaska's king crab industry drew him to the Bering water. Long before there were television cameras to record the drama, this was happening. Through perseverance and hard effort, he rose through the ranks for 20 years, beginning as a greenhorn and eventually becoming a captain. He was born into the sea. He had been on the water all his adult life, earning a reputation as one of the fleet's most tenacious and accomplished fishermen. His yacht was the result of a lifetime of sacrifice and hard labor, not just a place of employment. Wild Bill was more than just a clever TV moniker for him. Beginning back in high school, he earned it. He made a joke about how foolish Bill should have been in such situation in the past. He described doing crazy things like diving through ice to swim the entire length of a pool underwater and climbing between two driving automobiles on a motorway. But in the lawless environment of the Bering Sea, the term became more menacing and serious as he grew older. Jonathan Hillstrand, his fellow captain, once related a story that demonstrated Bill's wild side. In town, some of Bill's group got into a huge fight that left several individuals hospitalized due to severe injuries. The town was prepared to outlaw Bill's boat, which would have had disastrous financial consequences. Bill commanded everyone to place their hands on a table after lowering his AR-15 and firing a few bullets out the window to gain everyone's attention. Then, using the stock of his gun, he shot anyone with blood on their hands, breaking them. In an area where there was no order, it was a ruthless application of what Hillstrand referred to as sea law. This was the man who used both skill and fear to command respect. Bill had already experienced a full life at sea before. He became a reality TV celebrity. He made the decision to semi-retire in 2005 after spending decades in the harsh waters of Alaska. In order to operate sport fishing tours, he relocated to Mexico and Costa Rica, which have warmer conditions. But he was left wondering what to do when the economy started to decline. Meanwhile, a program called Deadliest Catch was gaining enormous popularity. Bill recognized a chance. He continued to communicate with his former fishing partners, and as the show's popularity grew, he made the decision to contact Discovery. He entered the close-knit group of the most deadly catch captains during the 6th season of the game in 2010 and introduced his fierce, direct manner to millions of spectators. Beneath the tough facade, there was a man with a complicated personal life. Bill credits his wife, Karen Gillis, for being his rock during his fight with cancer. "She keeps me in line and puts up with a lot," he remarked on Facebook. The last few months. In addition, he has 3 kids, a daughter named Delia and 2 sons named Zach and Jake. On the episode, his relationship with his son Zach Larson frequently caused problems. Bill spent most of his time at sea and was missing from Zach's life for a large portion of his early years. Bill wanted to establish a relationship with Zach when he brought him on board his yacht as a greenhorn, but they frequently disagreed. The audience observed. Given Bill's absence during his upbringing, it was extremely painful when he reprimanded his kid for being too much like his mother. When Zach finally quit his father's boat to work for a rival captain, Sean Dwyer, in season 13, the tension between the father and son reached a breaking point. The following season, when Sean bought fishing quota out from under Bill, the situation became even more severe. Establishing a rivalry at the workplace that is motivated by personal history. Bill was frequently unhappy when his son didn't take the initiative, even when he provided Zach chances to step up, such as taking charge of the wheelhouse. There was more to Bill's life than fishing and family strife. He made good use of his popularity. He traveled extensively during the off-season, participating in fishing competitions and NASCAR events. He developed a strong support for charitable organizations, particularly those that aid veterans, such as the Wounded Warrior Project. He felt passionate about this topic because he was a Navy veteran himself. He once claimed that he took to heart a statement made by a Discovery executive that he would have a voice that people would listen to. By taking injured veterans on sport fishing excursions and providing them with a short respite from their hardships, he discovered a new purpose in leveraging his fame to change the world. However, the sea is a site of perpetual adversity. And tragedy also characterized Bill's tenure on the show. His deck manager, 33-year-old Nick McGlashan, passed away in 2020. Nick was like a son to Bill, therefore his death from a D*** overdose was a terrible blow. A life already characterized by hardship and sacrifice was made much more sorrowful by the passing of his mentor and trusty right-hand man. Viewers observed Bill fighting a war on two fronts throughout season 20. As his body struggled with the side effects of his cancer therapy, he faced the severe weather of the Bering Sea. Determining to finish the season and show that he could overcome this, he pushed himself to the maximum. But there were warning signals coming from his body. He had little energy, and the physical toll was showing. Then came the turning point in the story. Bill's doctor called him while he was at sea, miles away from any medical facilities. The news was frightening and direct. He was about to undergo a crucial procedure, and the doctor warned him that failure to show up for his next appointment could result in his death. At last, his disobedience had encountered an impenetrable barrier. He was no longer able to deny the truth of his circumstances. He had to decide between saving his life and saving his yacht. For the first time, a doctor's warning was superseding the captain's orders, and he was unable to disregard it. Although it was painful, the choice was obvious. Throughout his more than 40-year career, Bill had never given up. "I haven't missed a season's end in about 40 years, he said to his staff. "I've never had to leave or walked away in the middle." One of the most poignant scenes in the history of the show was when he made his exit announcement. His voice was heavy with the weight of his decision as he assembled his men. He couldn't just leave his soldiers and his ship, even though he knew he had to go. He passed the helm of the FV Summer Bay over to Landon Cheney, his loyal deck supervisor. "To be honest, I couldn't imagine a better man to leave the boat with," he said Landon. It was a strong demonstration of leadership and trust. He was a captain making sure his ship was in good hands, not merely a patient heading out for treatment. In order to wage a different type of battle, one for his own future, he was leaving behind the life he had known for 40 years, but not in defeat. The much-anticipated news finally arrived after he left the Summer Bay and concentrated on his health. Bill posted an update on Facebook to his fans. "Happy to say numbers are great," he wrote, followed by the words that everyone was eager to hear. "I appear to be cancer-free at this time." It was a huge relief to his fans. Wild Bill had triumphed over his most deadly catch to date, but he was also forthright about the cost of his win. He considered the toll the struggle had taken in the same post. He said that the battle with cancer and the severe treatments made him feel as though the clock had finally caught up, after a lifetime of feeling younger than his years. "Perhaps it's a tiny price to pay for his life," he said. The war had left its scars, but he had won it. In addition to being a survivor, he was permanently altered. Every fan was wondering when Wild Bill would return to Deadliest Catch now that his health was getting better. The response was unexpected. An official announcement was made by a Discovery Channel representative ahead of the 21st season of the show. In the upcoming season, Captain Wild Bill Wichrowski will not be making an appearance. His tenure on the show came to an end after almost 10 years. Although no formal explanation was provided, it was obvious that Bill was making the decision to put his future in health first. That was the end for the man who had declared he would fish until he was unable to do so. An era for the show came to an end with his departure. He was a real trailblazer from an era before reality TV and one of the last leaders of the old guard. His departure was the last sensible step in his path, not a tragic conclusion. He was reclaiming his life for himself after giving it to the water. The tale of Captain Wild Bill Wichrowski is one of extraordinary fortitude, both ashore and ashore. He was a brave skipper who attracted millions of viewers and the admiration of his crew. On Deadliest Catch, his last chapter, however, displayed a new kind of strength. It demonstrated the fortitude to put one's life before one's career, the insight to seek assistance, and the courage to be vulnerable. Even though the show is no longer with him, his legacy as a fighter, a leader, and an inspiration will endure. His last journey was about getting a second opportunity at life, not about capturing crab. And that was the biggest win he ever had.